Hey, hi, and howdy to all my sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel and welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are new, my name is Courtney and I do food and kitchen content from grocery hauls to cooking. And today we're going to do some baking. We're going to bake some homemade bread and we're going to bake some cookies. So let's start off with the bread. I will link the recipe down below. It's called Amish White Bread. I like this one. It's not like your typical sandwich bread. It kind of has a little sweetness to it. If you've ever gone out and had dinner rolls, like the sweet yeast rolls anywhere, it kind of makes a whole loaf of bread like that, or you can make rolls. We're doing both today. So I started off with a cup of water and a cup of milk, and I heated them up in the microwave for about 40 seconds. You don't want to get that above 100 degrees. You just want to kind of warm it up because it helps the yeast. I threw in my yeast, and then I threw in 2/3 of a cup of sugar, and that is what gives it that extra sweetness. It's just something a little different. I do make regular white bread sometimes too, but I really, really like this one. Then you're going to need some oil. You can use whatever you want, but I really like coconut oil in here. I don't know why. I don't think I really taste the coconut or anything. This has just been my go-to for this particular recipe, and I really, really like it. So I added in a 1/4 cup of that, and then we're going to add in some salt. I think the recipe calls for like 1.5 teaspoons. And then it's time to start piling on the flour. So the recipe calls for 5.5 cups of flour, but I never add all of that at once, just kind of depending on where you live, your altitude, the weather, the humidity. It can really make a difference in every loaf of bread. So where I live down in Texas, it's typically hot and dry, but right now we've been having a lot of rain. So I know that it's going to be a little different today than it would have a month ago. So I started off by adding 4 cups of flour, and I will just kind of continue to add until it reaches the consistency I know it needs to. I can see by looking at it right now, it is very sticky. It's not pulling itself away from the sides. It's kind of, gooping whenever I turn it off. And I just know that that's too loose. So I added in another 1/2 cup. And that actually ended up being pretty good. You don't want to get your dough too dry because it'll make a really gross loaf of bread. Your rolls won't be good. You really want to watch it, and just practice makes perfect with this particular method. Here, just bake it throughout the winter and you'll start to learn what it's supposed to feel like, what the dough is supposed to look like. I did add about a 1/4 cup after that 1/2 cup. So we didn't even quite make it to the 5-cup mark on this, but I can see it's pulling together. And of course, you want to let it knead for a good long chunk of time. I usually let mine go 6 to 8 minutes in my my food processor here, and I touched it there and could feel it looked like it was good. I touched it to make sure, and it was. And it pulls itself away from the sides after 6 to 8 minutes. It's smoothed out quite a bit, and that is what you want. But like I said, practice makes perfect, and you start to learn a lot about bread. The more you make it, the more you work with it, the more you figure out what it is you're looking for. That's how I learned to make it, and I really think that is the best way to do it. So we're done with the mixer. We're going to go ahead and transfer this over to a bowl to let it rise because I need my mixer for our next recipe. I do like to grease my bowl. You can use olive oil. I just used some spray today because it was easier. Wish I would have sprayed my hands. The dough is still a little bit sticky, but it's exactly where I want it. Like, it sticks to the bowl, but it doesn't stick to my hands where it won't come off. As you can see, my hands were clean. We do want to keep this covered, especially where I am, because I do have pets and I don't want any like dog hair or anything getting in there. So we want to keep this covered to let it rise. So I'm going to spray one side of my plastic wrap so that it does not stick to my dough, and then just keep this on top loosely. You want to let a little bit of air get in there. I have a little bit of a vent there at the very top of it, and that's what I'm looking for. It just allows it to kind of help it rise and do what I want it to do. So now let's make some cookies. These are super simple. I've made these quite a few different times. My favorite is to use a lemon cake mix. But today I wanted to try something new. They had cake mixes on sale at H-E-B for $1, and I knew I had some Cool Whip at home, so I thought, well, we'll do this. So I've got a box of cake mix. I'm adding in 1 beaten egg, and we're adding in an 8-ounce tub of Cool Whip or whip topping, whatever brand you choose. And then we're just going to whip this up, and that is how you make this cookie batter. And it is like, it's not necessarily a dough. It is more of a batter. It's thicker than pancake batter, but it's looser than cookie dough. Somewhere in the middle, it's an odd batter, and it bakes a different kind of cookie. It is a very chewy cake-like cookie, but it's more dense than cake. And I say that because I don't like cake and I love these cookies. So what I wanted to do is to make some M&M cookies because my son Camden loves M&M cookies. But we've been trying to get away from red dye because he has migraines, and that's something that a lot of people say can help trigger those. So I got some Unreal candies at the store, but lo and behold, when I got home, I realized I got the ones with peanuts in them, and he does not like peanuts. So I ended up going back to the store, and would you believe that of the two stores I stopped at, none of them had any Unreal candy? I couldn't believe it. I thought that was crazy. So we ended up using M&Ms. Now, I'm not mixing those into the batter because I know they're going to kind of bleed their color out, and I didn't want that to happen, which in a minute we'll all laugh together once we see these baked. But I didn't want it just kind of like making swirls or brown, sad looking dough or anything. So I thought, well, I'll just add the M&Ms after I have placed all the cookies onto the baking sheet. So here we are with my cookie scoop, and I'm just, dolloping them out. Yes, mine are far too close. Every time I bake cookies, I crowd them in the pan. That's just who I am as a person. I don't like having to use cookie sheets, but do as I say, not as I do. This should go on two separate very large cookie sheets, maybe even three if you have smaller ones. Mine kind of baked into one giant cookie, which I don't mind kind of cutting apart at the end. It's not a big deal. But if you want them to be nice and pretty and round and stuff, you don't want that. So you should probably space them out better than I do. I am just truly a very impatient person, and I don't want to have two go rounds in the oven if I can help it. If I was taking these a party, or if I was taking them to some kind of family get together, I would most definitely do them in two separate batches so that they would be nice and pretty. But I'm putting them in a bowl in my kitchen for my family to chow down on, and they don't care if they're squares, ovals, octagons. They just want to eat them. They just care how they taste, and these tasted really good. So I use the butter cake mix. Of course, you can use any cake mix that you want. You don't have to put any kind of M&Ms in there. It just makes really good cookies. And that's why I say the lemon. The lemon makes a really good lemon cookie, which is just stunning during the summer. It's very pretty to look at because it's a bright yellow, and the flavor is just wonderful. But I've also done chocolate and devil's food, and those are really good too. So I gave my cookie sheet a good bashing on the counter just to kind of, make those flatten out a little bit. And now I'm just going to sprinkle some M&Ms on top of each one. Again, as I said, my intentions were good. I did not want to mix them in because I knew that the color from the M&Ms would bleed and swirl and turn my dough just kind of like a really drab, awful, brownish, yucky color. And I didn't want that. I really wanted them to be bright and pretty, which I will say they are most definitely bright and pretty, and they are bright and pretty when I pull them out of the oven. But they didn't quite do what I wanted them to do. I did not take into account the fact that this cookie batter really is so wet. So the cookies did kind of sink in there, which is fine, but they bled their color as they sank. So it gave this really cartoonish look to the cookies. I'm not going to say it's ugly because it was actually really cool. They were very bright and vibrant. They were really pretty to look at, but it kind of melted away the M&Ms and you couldn't see them on top. So once I pull them out of the oven, you will see that I add some extra M&Ms to the top of each cookie just to kind of give them some more, definition. So lessons I've learned would be don't add so many M&Ms on here before you bake them. Maybe you should add them all at the end. Or you don't have to add them at all. I mean, it's totally up to you. Or you could just use chocolate chips, which wouldn't dye your batter in any way, and you can mix those in before you put them on the cookie sheet, and that would work well too. But Camden loves M&M cookies, so here we are. And there they are. See, it's a very cartoonish look. I'm not going to say they're ugly because I think they're pretty. The colors are so bright. And you can see where I started just topping them with M&Ms again. And if you just gently press, they sink right in because these cookies are very soft and warm from the oven. And that worked out fine. The colors are bright. I love how the M&M color pops against the cookie. But again, it wasn't quite what I had in mind. But they taste yummy. My family's devouring them. So here you are. All right, on to our bread. So I've let this rise. So I let it rise about an hour. Then I punched it down and let it rise another hour. And now we're going to go ahead and make some stuff with it. I like to make a batch of rolls and a loaf of bread. You can make 2 loaves of bread by just splitting it in half, but I like to have some dinner rolls for the week, and I only need about 6 of them. So I'm just cutting off a small portion of that to make some dinner rolls. And then I have a pretty good sized loaf pan set up and ready to go. I spray it with nonstick spray, and then I put some parchment in there, just kind of down the middle because it makes it easier for me to pull the bread out when it's done. And then I spray a little bit of nonstick spray on the parchment as well. And as you can see, I kind of roll that up into a loaf. I am no expert, but this always turns out fine. We love it. We eat the whole loaf of bread. It's really good for toast. I think it would probably make fabulous French toast, cinnamon toast, stuff like that. It's really good. It toasts up beautifully. And it's good with just butter, honestly, because it does have some sugar in it. It's a little bit sweeter. It's just something different, All right, so I'm going to make some rolls now. Again, not a baker, but this is my personal technique. I just kind of start pulling and folding the edges of the dough in. Pulling it kind of smooths out the top of the dough ball, and then I pinch everything shut. And then I kind of either roll it on my nonstick mat there, my dough mat, or I roll it on my hand just to kind of help seal it up a little bit more on the bottom. And as you see, it doesn't take that long. I'm just making 6 rolls, and I just kind of blow right through all of these. I don't know if that's really the correct way to do it. I see people pull the dough to smooth it out and stuff like that, so I'm just kind of mimicking what I see. And these always turn out great. I love these rolls quite a bit. They remind me of Golden Corral's sweet yeast rolls. I haven't been to Golden Corral in a very long time because I kind of feel like they went downhill over the last, I don't know, decade or so. But when I was a teenager, I remember going to eat there. And when I was first out of high school, we went to eat there because it didn't cost very much and it was all you could eat. So it was a great deal for, poor college students to go eat there. But they had these rolls, and these kind of taste a lot like that. So I really, really enjoy it. I think they'd be fabulous with some cinnamon butter or honey butter or something like that. So I let everything rise for about an hour, hour and a half. I just put it in the oven because it's pretty cold. So it's kind of cold in my house. And it was a little bit warmer in the oven because I had baked cookies earlier. So I just let it do its rising in there. This is what it looks like. And then I always brush the tops with melted butter. And then I like to sprinkle a little bit of salt on top. I did put salt inside, but there's something about the salt on the top of the rolls and the top of the loaf that just add a little something extra that I really, really enjoy. Probably is because the bread is kind of sweeter. I don't know. But I just try to be really gentle as I do this. You're going to deflate it a little bit. That's no big deal. That's fine. But the butter helps to brown it, helps give it a beautiful top. Now, I will also say, if you like crusty bread, once it's baked, pull it out of the oven, set it on the counter, and let it cool. If you like a softer bread, brush some more melted butter on top of it when it comes out of the oven, and it'll keep that crust from getting that really hard crustiness to it. It'll be a soft crust, and that's the way I do it. That's the way I like it. I am not a toasty, crusty kind of person on my bread most of the time. I do like for it to be pretty soft when it comes to this, so I just brush a little extra on once it comes out. Overall, this is a very easy bread recipe because you can do so much of it in the food processor. You don't have to really, worry about it. You don't have to hand knead it. You don't have to have a lot of skill. Even with the rolls, I don't have much skill when it comes to bread making, but these always turn out great. My family loves them. And you just bake it for, I think it's about 30 minutes or so. I'll link the recipe below, but there's what it looks like when it comes out. A fresh baked loaf of bread and some rolls. I did kind of let the rolls cook a little bit longer than I probably should have. I forgot to pull them out. I usually pull them out about 5 minutes earlier than the loaf, but I was busy and I forgot. Either way, everybody ate them and they were delicious. I will list or link all the recipes down below for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any recipes you want me to try. I would love to give them a shot. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week, and I'll see you Saturday with my What's for Dinner video. Thanks for joining me, guys. Bye.